fun, but
Oh man,
no, it's okay. I mean, it's my work.
Ouais, c'est ça. Enfin, je pense, après que le deal aura été après la compétition.
Good morning, everyone. Good to see you all as usual. Welcome to this press briefing. As we had a lot of requests over the last 3 or 4 days about drones and OBS, and I promised Yanis, we thought we would bring him here today to discuss that, because I know you have a lot of questions. So thank you, Yanis, CEO of OBS, for those who don't know. So we'll come on to that later. Just quickly, medal events, 14 sessions, 8 medals today. A couple of quick broadcast figures. Good day for NBC. Their programs, Prime Time in Milan and Milan Prime. 42 million average viewership, highest since Sochi. And this one I like, Globo, which is clearly not a winter sports powerhouse. 8.99 million, nearly 9 million viewers on Monday for the ski jumping, which I think is, someone was talking the other day about countries that aren't into winter sports getting into winter sports. So there you have quite a good example. We will, as ever, take all of your questions. I guess there's probably 1 or 2 other issues. I don't know what they might be that you might want to talk about. So Luca, over to you.
Grazie Marco, buongiorno a tutti, vi do anch'io il mio benvenuto come al solito. Mi collego a quello che ha appena detto Marco. Anche noi effettivamente registriamo un grande entusiasmo. Ieri sono stati venduti 77.000 biglietti, quindi un dato estremamente positivo, 12 discipline in 11 venue di gara. Insomma, il sistema sta procedendo nel migliore dei modi. Una giornata particolare di nuovo anche ieri per la nazionale italiana, a cui permettetemi di mandare i nostri complimenti sia per la medaglia d'oro nella staffetta mista di short track che per la medaglia di bronzo nel misto doppio di curling. Chiudo solo con le informazioni di servizio. Ieri un dato estremamente positivo è giunto anche dai nostri canali social, con 28 milioni di reach totale e oltre 2 milioni e mezzo di interazioni, che per i canali del comitato organizzatore rappresentano davvero dei numeri importanti e quindi anche grande soddisfazione dal mondo del digitale. Oggi il presidente Malagò sarà insieme all'amministratore delegato Varnier sia ad Anterselva per poi raggiungere Cortina dove saranno in serata. Lascio la parola a Yannis, grazie.
Thank you very much, Mark. Grazie, Luca. Buongiorno a tutti. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for the opportunity to discuss with you for a while a few of the innovations that we bring in the broadcast coverage of the games here in Milano Cortina, especially the drones that understandably have drawn a lot of attention, not just from our media rights holders, but also from the audience. So let's start with that, and perhaps it would be better if we start with a very short video that shows you a little bit of the behind the scenes, how the drones operate, and a few images that we believe have made the difference in covering the sports here in Milano Cortina. So if we could start with this video.
What really is new is that all these systems are equipped with proper professional broadcast gear.
You have to control every aspect of the flight of the drone.
The guys, they go up the mountain, they want to fly, they want to drop down the mountains because it's just what they love, is what they do. I don't know at the moment any other event where you can see up to 50 drones with those cameras, transmitters, also with a camera control.
We're using this opportunity to test new technologies, and for the first impression of the director, we're good.
You can expect some very nice shots.
So these are just some of the images that I'm sure many of you have seen. Allow me to start with a very general approach, how we see Olympic coverage. We all need to understand that in the Olympic Games, almost half of the audience, probably more than half of the audience, are not sports fans. They are not following not just the specific sports in general, they don't often follow sports. They are what we call in media casual viewers. And this is part of the value and the beauty of the Olympic Games, that it becomes the showcasing of all these sports. So it's a unique opportunity for athletes and sports beyond the 2-3 extremely popular and commercial sports to get a larger audience, to get exposure to a larger audience. That means that for us, it's not sufficient if we simply do a very, very high quality coverage for the sports fans, for the ones who already know the rules of the sports, the stars of the sports, and so on. We have a very short period of time to make the sports understandable and to make them attractive. This is a big entry point for people, and especially younger people, to sports. And this is why the editorial approach we take to sports always is related to bringing innovative ways of weaving into this narrative. For a dedicated sports fan of a sport, you know, even if they watch a coverage with 2-3 cameras will be enough because they're interested in what happens, who wins, and so on. For us, it's not. We need to make people get attracted, get engaged with the sport. Technology increasingly offers us a lot of opportunities, but as I constantly keep on reminding, first of all, myself, the team, and everyone, the Olympic Games are not about showcasing of technology. It is about finding the most engaging ways of telling the stories of the biggest athletes in the world in the most efficient way possible. One of the opportunities we have seen during the last years is the development in the technology of drones. OBS has been using drones for the coverage of sports since Sochi, back in 2014. At the time, the technology was with heavier drones. We were using them carefully, always away from people, away from the field of play. But since then, the development, as you probably know, has been huge. So we saw an opportunity there to try and bring the coverage of the sports into a new dimension. We believe, and especially for some of the winter sports, that it was a great opportunity to really show and make people feel what it is actually practicing these sports at this level. So getting very, very close to the field of play. And with this new generation of drones, what we call first-person view drones, FPV drones, we have this opportunity. These drones are very small. They are, this is more or less their size. They are usually around 250 grams. Bigger drones are bigger. And we are using 15 of them for the coverage here. Many of these drones have been specifically modified for the coverage of specific sports here. The way they are controlled by very experienced and trained pilots in the movement in the specific sport. I will speak about it later. But essentially, we use drones in 3 ways. First of all, to showcase the speed and the field of play. We use FPV drones, again, to help with the understanding of the sport in sports that rely more on judging. And we use traditional drones that fly a little bit higher to put the competition in the context of the environment. In the Olympic Games, it's not just sports that happen in vacuum, they happen at the specific place here in the incredible beauty, within the incredible beauty of northern Italy. So what we have been trying to do for actually years now is in collaboration with the international federations and the athletes to make this work. So we have started practicing, first of all, developing these drones in a way that they can be used for each specific sport. You saw before downhill. In downhill, some of the speeds are above 100 kilometers, so you really need to have very, very fast drones and very agile drones. And What we had also was that we had to overcome some innate limitations of technology. Those are small pieces of equipment, so their batteries do not last long, especially in winter conditions. You know, the batteries go out faster. So we had to organize all these elements. But the single most important thing was to ensure, obviously, safety and to ensure that athletes themselves were happy and comfortable with it. This is why for every single sport where we use them, and we use them more or less in every sport other than figure skating, curling and hockey, where they don't make particular sense. So for every single sport, in collaboration with international federations, we did a series of tests. And also, we introduced them to all the athletes. For example, in sliding, all 70 of the athletes that participate in the competition have been themselves practicing with the presence of the drones. They have seen the results, they loved it, and they have actually touched the equipment and understood how it works. Now, there are, of course, a number of safety precautions that we are taking. First of all, these drones never fly on top or in front of athletes. They always follow the athlete. So if anything happens, the drone may go away, or it may go down or on the side. We have simulated situations like that with the International Federation in the actual venues where the games take place, and we have developed all the relevant procedures for safety. Of course, it's pointless to say that every drone here flies in collaboration with Italian Civil Aviation. We have been authorized for the exact paths that we use and for the processes that we use. But just to give you an idea about safety, for example, we're using for the first time drones in speed skating. They are chasing the athletes from behind. As I said before, because the drones are behind, the risk is not really with the athletes, but we wanted to make sure that there are no risks for the field of play. So in collaboration, for example, in speed skating with ISU, we have trained with their marshals that they have around the field of play and redo the field of play after each run. And they place the cones and so on. And we have a procedure in case something happens, how they remove immediately any debris from the field of play. Not that it has happened, and hopefully nothing like that will happen, but we have a series of procedures which are specific for each sport. But for us, as I said, the single most important thing was to be convinced that the athletes, the federations, but most importantly, the athletes themselves embraced the idea and felt comfortable. And this is the case. I must say that they were excited, probably more excited than us broadcasters, because for the first time, many of them could really tell, yes, now people can know what it feels to be riding a bob, or to be going with a luge, or to be going downhill. They had the same exact feeling. As I said, we did several tests before the games. We have controlled crash tests. We did all these things, and I think that we have done everything that's humanly possible to maintain safety. One important thing is the human factor. All the pilots that we use, for each FPV drone, we have a pilot and we have a spotter, a person sitting next to them, who really guides them about any situations in the environment. Because the pilot itself is wearing goggles like you wear in VR, and this is the way they pilot this piece of equipment. It's not possible to pilot them if you're just looking at them. Now, the pilots themselves are not just very experienced. We train them in the specific sport for a long time. I don't dare to say that they trained as much as the athletes, but I can tell you that they have spent many, many days, and actually they have provided a lot of input about what are the best possible shots and what makes sense and what doesn't. It's interesting that some of them have this background. Jonas, who is the pilot in ski jumping, is a ski jumper himself. He's friends with all the athletes. He knows the sport inside out. He was the one actually discussing with our producers and explain them what makes sense, how it makes sense to show the jump, what is the feeling, and to replicate it. But the same goes for practically everyone involved in this operation. So it may seem like a simple flight, but there has been a lot of preparation, years I would say of preparation, a lot of technical elements. You understand that all these require connectivity, safety, power redundancy. The good thing is that we have resolved also problems of latency, so that when you cut to a drone, you do not have a delay that sometimes you have with digital equipment and RF transmitted equipment. And this is why I believe that the result is good. I know that there is a question around audio and the noise that this equipment generate, which is a reasonable question. Let's say here that part of the issue is that in the coverage that OBS does for the Olympics, there is an extremely sophisticated audio plan. We use 860 cameras to cover the games, but we use 1,800 microphones. You don't necessarily see them because we plan for years how we're going to hide them in the snow, behind things and so on, but we pick every single piece of audio. Now, for the athletes themselves, practically this noise it cannot be heard, because especially in the sports of high speed, where you mostly hear the noise, first of all, the drone is behind them, they're going towards the other direction, but also the noise that they have to deal with from the wind, from the physical condition of the wind, and the fact that they wear helmets doesn't, we haven't heard from any of them that noise is an issue. I would say that it's more for actually viewers on television. And there, as it usually happens, we have the weird phenomenon that we have a significant amount now of viewers who actually love it because they think that it brings a sense of fun and drama in the thing. Regardless, I think that through the years, this noise with technology will be reduced. I believe that also with AI, it will be at some point possible to reduce the capture of this noise from the microphones. But currently, if we did that, we would kill a lot of the other atmosphere that we capture in the venues, and we simply don't want to do that. Before taking any questions, perhaps it would be interesting if I show you one complete shot from a drone. We can run the video, which is from last night from sliding. It's one of the sports I think that have most benefited from the introduction of that. And you will see the whole process of the flight of a drone, not just what you see on the final cut. So you see the drone moving from its hut where it's based, following a dedicated path, and arriving here, which is the starting point for women's luge, was last night, takes the position. You see that it's fully humanly controlled. It's not automated, it's not controlled by GPS or anything else. So here the pilot is waiting until the athlete starts. The athlete starts. After 10-15 meters, it's followed by the drone. And the drone will be chasing for the first 3 curves, because afterwards we will start losing connectivity. And here it moves away, and the director has cut to our steady cameras. It follows this dedicated path and goes all the way back to the hat of the drones, to the welcoming hands of its dads. So this is how the whole thing works. Happy to take any questions if you have.
Thank you, Yanis. Fascinating. We've got lots of time for all your questions. I'm sure you have many other questions. If you have ones for Yanis, maybe get them in now, because, yeah, gentleman over there, and then we will go to the other questions, by all means.
Buongiorno a tutti, Yanis. I'm Andrew Castellum from Sports Illustrated. Drones and the way they're used today have a lot of implications. One of the more positive ones is nature photography. And I know you mentioned that drones have been used quite a bit in the past, but I wanted to ask you why this Olympics, and why, especially with the stunning backdrop of the Dolomiti, it feels poetic and it's catching a lot of attention. So I wanted to ask you on the relationship between why these games and drone photography now is having a moment.
In a sense, you have answered also half of the question. I mean, this backdrop, this incredible backdrop of these games, it's something that really is pushing you to find ways to bring the sport into its physical surroundings. But that's not the only reason. As I said, we started working with drones very early on, back in 2014, and we had been doing work before that. Before we use anything in the Olympic Games, we want to make sure of two things: that we use a technological innovation only if it adds to the story that we're telling, not just to showcase technology, because this is terrible, especially in the density of the games. If we simply started flying around drones and showing randomly things, people after the first day would get sick of it. They would say, okay, we have seen that, no more. So for us, it only made sense if editorially it could be integrated in the story we are saying. And this is why you see in every single sport, there's a very specific design of what we cover with the drones. The second thing is we wanted to make sure that the technology could really support that, so we could achieve safely speeds like some of the athletes do. A few years ago, this was not possible. That the drones are agile and moving brightly enough in order to be able to achieve what we want. And also that we had familiarized the international federations, the technical officials of the federations, and most importantly, the athletes themselves with that. We didn't want this to become a factor affecting them. We wanted this to become a factor enhancing. So this is a process that actually started before Paris. You know, we started already since that time. We had in our minds to do it. We already have in our minds more or less what we want to do in Los Angeles and where we hope technology would be at that time. But sometimes it takes a lot of time and to introduce, and especially, you know, some of these sports in their normal competitions, they have, you know, they're being covered with, I don't know, 6, 7 cameras. Here we have a much more comprehensive coverage. We need to integrate all these elements. It takes time and it takes familiarization. We don't want to surprise anybody else. Drones is just one element of the things we do in innovation. You have seen the 360 degrees replays, the stroboscopic we're doing, the insertion of data. All these things seem quite simple when you finally see the ultimate product, but you have to go, you understand it yourself, being a photographer, through all this process of solving the little problems and making it safe. So yes, I believe we will go deeper. I believe there's incredible opportunities also for some of the summer sports in Los Angeles. And by that time, we'll have come up with other ideas as well, I'm sure.
Bonjour, merci Marc. J'ai 2 questions, j'en ai une sur Alpes 2030, je poserai après peut-être. Concernant les drones, effectivement c'est très spectaculaire, il y a un vrai effet waouh, en tous les cas moi j'adore. Vous avez parlé de 15 drones, est-ce qu'il n'y va pas y avoir un problème à un moment donné pour recruter des pilotes, des talents justement pour ces drones? Merci, je pose la question après. Sur Alpes 2030. Alors, Alpes 2030, ce matin, a donné un communiqué pour... je ne sais pas si vous êtes au courant, Marc, hein? Non? On en parlera après, d'accord. Alors, ils ont communiqué sur le fait que le directeur général allait sans doute être dégagé, enfin sortir. Donc je voulais savoir si le CIO a participé hier à cette réunion et connaître la réaction du CIO. Merci.
Merci pour la question. About pilots, as I said, we use 15 FPV drones that do require so much specialized pilots. We use another 10 more traditional drones that stay away. They're also piloted. Whether we will be able to find. I think that overall the drone technology is one of these technologies that's being hugely embraced by young people around the world. So I'm sure that there will be a generation of people, you know, that there are also competitions for drone pilots. It's becoming a sport in itself. Where myself, I see a huge opportunity is what we are trying to do, which is actually to be using and encouraging athletes when they transition into other professions when they finish their careers to start becoming pilots. They're all young people, they are digitally native, it's not very difficult. So what we have done in one or two sports, I would like to see this happening more and more. So actually have old athletes with the intimate knowledge of the specific sport to be playing that role, and as a matter of fact, guiding and enhancing the ideas of our producers. So I believe that we will be finding enough. I believe these techniques will be implemented, will trickle down to other events. I hope they do. It's great, but they need to be done with the same care and attention as I hope we're doing here in the Games.
Yeah, I literally, as we were coming into the press conference, I saw the wire drop on Alpes 2030. At this stage, I can't really add anything. You've seen the statement that's there. What I would say is our sole objective is to deliver successful games in partnership with them, and obviously we are in constant close contact. So yeah, we can give you a kind of a broader statement later, but I think the statement which came, I think, at 5 to 11, you have to read it and take it for itself, and we'll come back with a fuller statement later if that's okay. Yeah, just here in the front. Okay, yeah.
Philip Barker, just a quick question, actually response from all three of you. I've been looking at the Serie A fixtures over the next few days, and on Saturday night in the Olympic City we've got Internazionale against Juventus, a monumental fixture. Next week we've got Milan against Como. What I want to know is, one, for Yannis, are you happy with that? Two, was any approach made to Serie A in the last 7 years to move their fixtures? Because I know you have World Championships, you're not allowed to have them even in the country. And if not, why not? Why have we suddenly got this situation where we've got rival events coming on when we've got the Olympics in the city?
Philip, if I may, because this is basically a question for the organizing committee. First of all, I'm not happy if Real Madrid is not playing. This is the first and most important thing. Second thing, the mixture of sports and the attention and so on. You know, I feel, and that's an answer from a point of view of a media person, that increasingly mixing sports and, you know, very commercialized sports and so on in the Olympics and the personalities of these sports, and also I would say from the wider range of entertainment, is not a bad thing. We did, you know, we organized, following the success in Paris, a red carpet before the opening ceremony in La Scala, where we had not just great legends of winter sports, but together with them, you know, we had Zlatan Ibrahimovic, we had Stanley Tucci, we had Donatella Versace. It was great for the Games. I don't feel that that was a bad thing. I understand that there may be a little bit of a distraction, but we need to see sports as a wider world. I know that in the past people thought that it's this sport against that sport and that's Olympic, that's not. I don't think that in people's minds this exists. But this is just a personal opinion regarding the organization of the specific events. Probably Luca can go through.
Ma sono assolutamente d'accordo con quello che ha detto Yannis. Nella fattispecie credo che l'utilizzo dello stadio San Siro per la cerimonia di apertura e poi sostanzialmente la disponibilità che di nuovo tornava nella città e quindi delle due squadre che lo stadio ospita alla domenica lo rendesse fruibile. Sono molto d'accordo sul senso di uno sport allargato, cioè l'idea di raccogliere l'entusiasmo generale che abbraccia gli sport, che siano olimpici che non.
Okay, let's go to the BBC here and then FRZ down here, yeah, and then Makaka.
Thank you. Emma Smith, BBC Sports. Obviously, there was a lot of discussion yesterday about the Ukrainian skeleton slider who's been banned by the IOC from using his helmet that he describes as a helmet of remembrance. He's then yesterday evening said that he intends to use it anyway in practice and potentially in competition. Does the IOC have any further comment to make, and is he at risk of disqualification because of his stance?
Well, I gave a long explanation yesterday, so I won't re-go over that. But what I will say is that we will contact the athlete today, and we will reiterate the many, many opportunities that he has to express his grief. As we discussed before, he can do so on social media, in press conferences, in the mixed zone. So we will try to talk to him about that and try to convince him. We want him to compete. We really, really want him to have his moment. That's very, very important. We want all athletes to have their moment, and that's the point. We want all athletes to have a fair and level playing field. And, you know, those athlete guidelines, I have actually a copy here somewhere that I was going to wave at you, but it's online. They were agreed by 4,500 athletes and the input of many, many, many of our athletes' commissions. This is what the athletes want. They want that specific moment on the field of play to be free from any distraction. He can, and we would encourage him to express his grief. We feel his grief. We expressly want him to do that. But, you know, in the end, let me be clear, it's not the message, it's the place that counts. And that for us, and not actually us, we are in this, in a sense, in a back seat. It's the message of the athletes that the athletes have reiterated to us time and time again. There are 130 conflicts going on in the world. We cannot have 130 different conflicts featured. However terrible they are, we cannot have them featured during the field of play, during the actual competition. So we would beg him, we want you to compete. Yeah, FAZ.
Thanks. Mark, Christoph Becker, Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung. Following up on that and following up on the explanation you gave yesterday and my question from yesterday, which referred back to the Beijing Games and German weightlifter Matthias Steiner. Last night, there was a very moving moment with Maxim Naumov, the American skater who tragically lost his parents in the Potomac air collision last year. He presented a photo of his deceased parents. Just to understand, was this something that is within the adapted scope of what is allowed under Rule 50, or technically or legally speaking, it's not allowed, but obviously because this is a very emotional and frankly very human gesture, this is something that's being ignored or just taken into account, and then life goes on?
No, I mean, as you said, this is a very emotional, very human, spontaneous gesture, and I think everyone would understand someone who has lost their parents in such a tragic way. In a sense, it highlights what we're saying, because this Ukrainian athlete, Garaskevich, he can do the same. He can have his helmet, he can show his helmet, he can walk through the mixed zone, he can talk to people, and actually also, by the way, we have loosened the rules. We are offering him to also wear a black armband to commemorate his friends and colleagues who've lost their lives. But actually, the case of last night actually makes what I'm saying even stronger, in the sense that we see that as a way forward. That he competed, the athlete competed, and afterwards, okay, there's some discussion about where it took place, whatever, but afterwards he expressed spontaneously a human emotion. And I think rules will never exactly work for every single case there is, but I think you can see a very clear difference, and something again that we would really urge this athlete to do is express your understandable grief before and after the competition, as this skater did so eloquently last night. Okay, yeah, take Graham first, and then we'll go back to the BBC.
Thank you very much, Mark. It's a question for you and one for Luca as well, if I can. On the Ukrainian issue, when the IOC, when the rules say if you don't comply with the rules, you can't compete in the event, that's like the ultimate leverage, but it's not clear that it seems it could be that the athlete is quite immune to that leverage and he's determined to go through with this and create a sort of standoff. Where can you take the situation? What more can you do? How can you escalate the situation beyond that? What options do you have, maybe with his team or elsewhere? And a question for Luca on mascots. They seem to be hugely popular. All the stores seem to have sold out of them. Is there more inventory coming in? Because we're used to the most popular items maybe being sold out by middle of week 2, early in week 1. They're either very popular or there's not enough of them. Are there more coming in? Thank you.
Yeah, so from my point of view, I mean, I think we don't really want to prosecute this conversation in public if we can help it. We need to give you our reasoning, which we think is a very good and compassionate reasoning, but I think in the end, as you said, it's human, and I think the way that we hope that we can deal with this is on a human level, is hopefully for people, maybe fellow athletes, but we will have conversations with him to try to explain that actually it's in everybody's interest for him to compete and for him also to be able to say what he wants to say. So I'm not saying that we have a solution, a ready solution for this, but I think here it's better for people to talk to people and for human interaction, hopefully, to win the day. Luca, your question on mascots, I think.
Stiamo dialogando con tutti i nostri fornitori assolutamente, quindi ci sarà materiale, ma direi che è la dimostrazione più concreta che il comitato organizzatore possa dare del grande entusiasmo che stiamo respirando tutti quanti insieme, il fatto che anche gli official store siano stati così positivamente invasi di nuovi acquirenti.
Hi, Emma Smith, BBC Sport again. Obviously, this is the most gender-balanced Winter Olympics ever, I think. Gender-balanced? But there is obviously one discipline where only men compete, which is the Nordic combined. What is the reason for this, and why we see in the future a women's event of this in future games?
Yeah, I don't think you were here, but our sports director dealt with that, and we can give you a much, much longer explanation than I can. As you say, we are at 47%, so to all intents and purposes, these are gender balance games, but we will continue to work on it to get it to the absolute gender balance. On Nordic combined, we are taking a look at it here. I think the explanation is that the participants in Nordic combined have largely been from a very, very small number of countries, and that the idea is that it needs to be, like all sports that work at the Olympic Games, it needs to be more universal and it needs to be strong in both genders. And I think we will take a look at it here with the male, and we will take a look at the sport, and we will take it forward for the next Winter Games. Sorry, yes, Wakako wanted a question. Yes, down here, please.
Thank you. Wakako Yuki from your museum. One question each to Yanis and Mark. Yanis, thank you for today and yesterday. It was fascinating. And you just hinted about the future games, Los Angeles as well. The summer games different from winter, obviously. Winter is more speedy, in my view. Perhaps there's a lot of things that the spectators can't see. Summer, what are the things that you are trying to enhance the drone capability and give the audience the real attraction or capture the moment? And I was curious, in the future, do you expect drone to, for instance, follow the archery, the speed of the archery shoot, or in underwater even? Thank you. Mark, yeah, indeed. For follow-up of the Ukraine issue, yesterday we had talked to athlete in figure skating, Ukrainian, and he had sympathized, and he said he didn't understand what are the threshold for the judgment of the IOC. What is the threshold? Why it was? Because again, the athlete understood it was extension of commemoration. He had his dear friend, things so forth, and in a way, could you explain to us what are the definition of the rules, or how you would judge? Is it the way that it was displayed outside? For instance, if it were inside the helmet, like some other Japanese athlete did with their deceased relatives, is it okay? Or, things so forth. Thank you.
Yuki-san, thank you very much. Of course, for every sport, you have to think and imagine what would make sense. And yes, there are a number of summer sports where it wouldn't make particular difference if we use drones. It would be a forced thing. But still, there are many sports and disciplines in the summer edition of the Games where one can imagine an intelligent use of drones, runs like marathons. Surfing is clearly one that can benefit. A lot of sports like that where we need to think. As I said before, it's important that what we do and what we design to make editorial sense. You are speaking about archery and following the path. This wouldn't make sense because what would be captured in less than a second that lasts this flight, the human eye does not have the capacity to be following in continuity that. It would be 25 images that only if you slowed them down, not went as fast as that, would make sense. And this is why it's one of the sports that started benefiting a lot when we started using extreme slow motion, where people started realizing for the first time that the flight of the arrow is not straight, nor is the arrow constantly straight. It's constantly pulsating and moving. Now, and this is related to editorial decisions, and sometimes it makes sense in sport, rather than follow the speed, to actually slow down the time or freeze the time as we do with 360-degree replay, where you actually freeze a moment and you try to show better what's going on at this specific moment, or with the stroboscopic that we're using. So one needs to use whatever techniques are appropriate. It's not about the technique, it's about the storytelling. But for sure, also in the summer sports, there are opportunities for drones.
Thanks, Wakako, for your question. Actually, I said I had it. I did manage to dig out the guidelines on athlete expression, which sounds very kind of bureaucratic, but this is the document that was agreed by the 4,500 athletes' input, with the athlete commission's input from around the world, from federations, NOCs, and so on. And they're quite clear, but we also, as with all rules, as I was saying earlier on, as with all rules, no one's quite sure. What I would say is, for us, and for the athletes more importantly, the field of play is sacrosanct. These people have dedicated their whole life to getting to where they've got to, and they want to have a moment to perform. So they all agreed that they would, if you like, give up their rights and have a field of play that was even for everybody and free from interference. And that is the fundamental. When people have specific, because obviously there are specific questions, wearing something in the helmet would be fine. I can see no problem with that. They can come to us. They can actually come to us, and we will look at, through the chef de missions of the NOCs, we have this all the time. We actually have a group where we look at requests and we grant requests. In fact, I think I'm right in saying off the top of my head that an athlete has already been given go ahead to wear an armband in mourning for a relative, I think. So yes, there are cases that need fine-tuning, but the fundamental principle that the athletes have asked us is protect the field of play. Okay, oh no, yeah, gentleman at the back, just here.
Ian Axon from Reuters. Not to labour the point, Mark, on the Ukrainian, but what would happen if he insisted on wearing the helmet? Are you disqualified pre-event? Are you physically sort of prevented from doing it, or are you disqualified after?
do you know what, going back to what I said earlier on, I don't think it's helpful in this situation to look at hypotheticals, particularly since we're actually trying to get to a place where we can get him to take part. We really want him to compete, if that message hasn't come across already. We really want that to happen. So I don't think it's helpful to speculate about if he did this, what would we do? But obviously there are rules and regulations, and without belaboring the point, there are rules and regulations that the athletes themselves want us to enforce, and they will ultimately be enforced. Yeah, it was a yes.
Would that be, is that an IOC matter or a federation matter?
In the end, it would be an IOC matter. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, lady right at the back there. Yeah.
Hi there, Heather Butts with CTV National News. A few Canadian speed skaters and an American speed skater have raised issues with the ice conditions on the short track, saying that it's too soft, they're falling. Is this something you're looking into? Was it perhaps the right decision to hold figure skating and short track speed skating at the same venue?
Sì, siamo a conoscenza di, peraltro, poche issue di questo tipo. Quello che io le posso garantire, ma lo potete vedere direttamente anche voi andando nelle venue competitive, è che l'Ice Master misura la temperatura del ghiaccio e verifica la condizione del ghiaccio costantemente durante tutto il periodo di gara, per cui riceviamo onestamente complimenti per la qualità dei campi di gara. Grazie.
Pete, for Yanis, I think.
Thank you. One for Yanis for the full set. OBS, what you do at the Olympics, obviously a great showcase for what OBS does. I think there was discussion last year, maybe was it during the election campaign, about OBS doing more work outside for maybe World Championships, for other IFs, bringing the same sort of level. Maybe that's quite an expensive proposition for a lot of IFs, but is that happening? Can you do this for other sports, individual World Championships?
Listen, OBS was specifically created back in 2001 in order to make sure that in the Olympic Games we will have the best possible coverage for our media rights holders and for the whole world, and secure the quality of this coverage. This was, on the other hand, a very big relief for the organizing committees, that until that time they had the responsibility to organize the Games, the biggest event in the world, and organize the biggest production in the world, which was very difficult. So the IOC assumed this responsibility operationally, but also financially, which I think through the years has been one of the fundamental, how can I say, optimizations followed. Obviously, for us to do the coverage, we developed techniques, and we try to be very, very efficient and maximize the quality of the coverage of each sport. We're happy to see that many of the things that we do in the Olympic Games later on trickle down to the coverage of other sports. Also, we are constantly following other sports and see what we can learn and what we can do. The discussion about whether OBS could do other events. OBS has been created at the service of the Olympic movement. So if the IOC at some point and the movement sees value in that, it's true that many times we discuss with federations about their championships, come up with ideas where we are part of the movement. So if at some point the wider movement, the IOC decides that this is a meaningful way in which the IOC can support, of course, OBS will be prepared to do it. Now, each event needs to be measured for what it is, and the resources that you can allocate, and the level of coverage and so on. But there's no doubt that there are fundamental efficiencies that have been created, both on the OBS side and on the OCS side, which is the digital part of us, where I think that every sport now derives much more value than they could ever get by themselves, because of the investment the IOC has made on the digital front. Olympics.com now is one of the most successful sports platforms around. Last You know, we have already 80 million unique users for the games here without even carrying the coverage of the games. It's all about sports and athletes. So the benefit of that, yes, we do look at it holistically. The team of OBS and OCS are committed in the movement. If there is this need, of course, we will do it in the appropriate manner. You cannot be doing Olympics every week, but yes, there are ways of doing things.
Okay, we're going to take the last question from the, thanks Yanis, from the front here, from the mountains.
Also to Yanis, it's just a clarification, please, on the drones versus the cameras. Lindsay Schnell from The Athletic asked, are the 15 drones that you mentioned, and I think you said 10 regular drones as well, part of the 860 cameras or on top of, and therefore, what is the total number, including drones, of OBS cameras?
The cameras that we use, if the count is correct, is around 140. I hope that they don't hide anything from our finance department. And it's around 1,800 microphones. We are paying equal attention, I could say, to audio for two reasons. First, because audio does create an emotional environment that sometimes even visuals cannot do. So this sense of immersion is very much enhanced. It's something that sometimes is overlooked in sports, but it's hugely, hugely important. And second, because I have this fixation with music and audio myself, so I always go there and tease the team.
So from the three microphones up here, no, I was just about to say goodbye. One more question then, right at the back there from CGN. Yeah.
Sorry, thank you, Mike. A question for Yanis, question from CMG. I'm wondering, are these drones, where are these drones made? And are they specially developed for broadcasting? And also I'm wondering, are they available on the market? Thank you.
Can you please repeat the first part? I'm not sure
Where were they made and are they available?
These drones come from different...
Where are these drones made? Yeah. And also, are they developed specially just for broadcasting? Are they available on the market?
These drones, some of them are commercial type of drones, so commercial. They are professional drones, but can be sourced. Some of them are modified. They come from several different vendors, but for this question coming from CMG, there is no doubt that China is one of the major players in the development of drones around the world. Companies from China deliver some of the best, more advanced technology that there is, and obviously we use them. But they do not come from a single provider. And as I said, we have worked in slightly modifying some of them. We would always be looking into the market for whatever can fit their needs.
Okay, thank you very much. We will be back same time tomorrow, at least Luca and I. So thank you, Yanis. Cheers. Bye-bye.